Alright, bet today is the 28th of July, being a Tuesday, and in relation to the economic calendar, today we did not have any high impact news. So this video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a live execution video and, well, involved with commentary. And it's going to be insightful as to how one could look to gauge order flow while navigating price, as well as how one could look to gauge order flow while managing a trade in terms of looking to see signatures in price action that are promoting for their desired deliverance X, Y, and Z. But of course, I hope you find this video insightful and perhaps maybe learn a thing or two. All right, but looking at potential longs right now on the NASDAQ, had a lot of bearish movement from the 9:30 opening. So we had 9:30 open here, a lot of sell side deliverance, and cracking correlations are just being formed now. And then we've got an internal cracking correlation here as well. So looking for that lower time frame framework to present itself. So I just went long and would have been off of this order block right here. So 15-second order block, and then can potentially add into the position with the engagement, with the formation of a order block. So right now, cracking correlations look like this. Yeah, so closure above this candle would be your formation of an M1 order block, your change in sustained delivery. So just add it into the position again off of this order block, M1 order block. So majority of the position, gonna look to take it off at the monthly BISI high, and then gonna look to leave runners, and then just add it into that position again off of the M1 propulsion block. This down close candle traded into this M1 order block, which is what makes this a propulsion block. So should act as a very sensitive PD array and should invite for expansion. Now low-key, you gotta be switching between charts here because I'm not connected to my monitor, so I can't just have it on one chart only. But what I would like to know is when ES comes and engages with this high that resides right here. And in fact, this position risk can be reduced down to the closing of the M1 propulsion block. And we can see bodies being very sensitive around the M1 propulsion block. So would now be looking for price action to maintain that sensitivity and then invite that buy side delivery in an expansive manner. So this indicator is still in the process of being, perfected, I guess you could say. So yeah, we have that Asia high right here. We have previous settlement, and then there's a new week opening gap that resides here as well. It's an old new week opening gap, and then we have that midnight opening. This is what I mean about the indicator. It says Friday midnight opening. This is today's midnight opening. I'm pretty sure it's because of the look back that I have set on it, but yeah, this is currently what is on our hands right now. We're inside of this monthly BISI, so we're under it. We're looking for this monthly BISI to be utilized as expansion. So if we jump onto this chart right here, you can see where price currently resides would be inside of this monthly BISI. So if ES is to potentially come and engage with this high before NASDAQ does, I may feel inclined to scale off some of the position depending on what the deliverance is looking like on the NASDAQ. However, I do believe that we should have further buy-side expansion, potential to have an M5 change in sustained delivery. ES has already had one, it's already engaged with it, so it's clearly the more it's the stronger asset. Nasdaq has engaged with the previous day low, and ES has failed to follow suit in doing so. But yeah, what I'd be looking to see right now would be a nice clean change in sustained delivery, and we can look to continue that buy side delivery motion relevant to these timeframes being an M5 timeframe, which is why I feel inclined to stretch out the take profit, because we see wick -2, -2.5. Previous element resides inside of it, Asia high resides inside of it, and then we have that -2, -2.5 projecting for that 9:30 opening of the body standard deviation. So right now, not currently seeing the type of deliverance that I would have wanted to see. I would have wanted to see price action be very expansive to at least these highs and the monthly BISI high. As we begin to dig into the range, it could become a lot more lethargic, because this is expansion down towards sell side, and it's in a low resistance manner. So we're seeing price action being very lethargic here. We're in a phase of distortion. The only thing we can take acknowledgement to is the fact that the propulsion block is being utilized in a very sensitive manner for now. The wicks are painting under it, but the bodies are being very respective. That's what we like to see when we're paying attention to order flow. We like to be paying attention to the bodies. That is a manner in which we look to gauge order flow. And one thing that I could look to do is grade this range that we're delivering back into in quadrants, as well as simply just finding out the equilibrium. So yeah, most definitely majority of the position being scaled off at this monthly BISI high. And we see that the equilibrium is in alignment with that -4, -4.5. So yeah, you can see price action where it was struggling to begin that expansion was at the lower quadrant of this range. And ES is just engaged with this high, meaning that there is a cracking correlation here. But I'm not going to scale off any of the position because I like the deliverance that I'm seeing right now. So I'd look to see Nasdaq close above this imbalance right here for it to then be utilized as support. And then price action simply just continuing its way up towards the monthly BISI high, as that is where the equilibrium of the range is also located. So we can see ES engaging with this respective 950 high, Nasdaq failing to follow suit, lagging behind, but we know that Nasdaq has been the weaker asset the entire day, so would simply look for it to catch up. It's not a case of this is going to be a smart money reversal. You'd have to question where is price action looking to reverse into. So a heavy sell side deliverance against the desired direction, being buy side. Still not phased. I know I said that I would have looked to take a lost my train of thought. I know I said I would have looked to take out some of the position if this high was engaged with on ES, but it was dependent on the way Nasdaq was trading, and I like the way Nasdaq is delivering in terms of the way it's respecting our bullish arrays and looking to deliver that buy side deliverance. This 1035 candle, expansive candle, and a devil's mark on top of it, it's inviting for that buy side delivery. Right now, what is occurring is time distortion. We're actually waiting for this time window being that 1045 window. So I'm not in a rush to manage this trade rather aggressively at this current point in time. I haven't really seen any signatures in price that would indicate for a potential reversal. All I know is that price action is inside of this -2, -2.5, and this is going to serve as one of two things: a smart money reversal or a reaccumulation redistribution of orders. In this case, simply looking for a reaccumulation redistribution of orders, which means that price action should deliver down as we've seen it do so, reaccumulate orders to continue redistributing in the original direction to head towards terminus. So we have the formation of an order block right here, this down close candle. We have the displacement through this imbalance. If we return back down into it, we'd look for it to serve as support in the manner that I was initially looking for it to serve as support. Now, in relation to the speculation for the day, to be quite honest, I don't think we are going to see that deliverance all the way up to the Asia high, previous settlement, X, Y, and Z. What I actually could look to do, simply layering out the opening range gap in quadrants, simply just to get a measure of what could potentially be targets. I'm not a fan of these standard deviations anymore. This is a down close candle. It's ruining the sequence for me in terms of what I deem a clean change in sustained delivery when we're looking for that deliverance. This black line right here would be the monthly BISI high. So what I actually do think may end up occurring is that we end up engaging with the monthly BISI high that resides right here, and then price action ends up going into a phase of consolidation. Today is the day before FOMC, so tomorrow we have FOMC. We have no high impact news yesterday, and we had no high impact news. We have no high impact news today. So days before high impact news, especially if they don't have high impact news, and days before high impact news events such as FOMC, NFP, CPI, the days before them being today, they're going to be delivered in a certain manner that sets up for that news event. So the day before and the sessions before those news events are going to be delivered in a certain manner that prime for that news event. Now, one thing I could say is potentially Tuesday could be our low of the week. So we could have Tuesday being the low of the week. We have delivered into this monthly imbalance. This is something that was looking to see for quite a long time. So this monthly imbalance, we have delivered into it. ES clearly lagging behind, as we can see, but we've delivered into this monthly imbalance. Intra week, this could be today could be that low of the week. So yeah, price action falling short of engaging with this buy side right here. I'm going to look for it to just run, just speed, eager to get to the equilibrium. And this is that buy side after the 8:30 opening. Devil's mark residing here. Seems as though it appears to be a very clear drawn liquidity. So I'm actually going to look to take off the majority of the position at the equilibrium of the range. That is the first level that I deem worthy within that -4, -4.5 that can serve as an influence on price action. So potentially price action could engage with that -4, -4.5 equilibrium, monthly BISI high, and invite for sell side delivery again. And again, we can see that just teasing it. I'm looking for it to really displace. The moment we breach that level of buy side, would simply just be looking for it to get rather aggressive, to be quite honest. And this pool of buy side would be your M15 BISI low. I mean M15 SIBI low. So there's that buy side being taken. I'd want to see follow through or price action. So closure above that buy side level, very much like that. And then that is the first partial for the position. So equilibrium scaling out a majority of the position. Ultimately was looking for the monthly BISI high, but 10-point difference equilibrium is of worthiness to scale off that position. And we can see same candle displacing towards that monthly BISI high. Now, as to like the gauging of order flow, once again, going back to this topic, as to why I have the inclination that price action should get very aggressive is because we failed to engage with this pool of buy side right here during these two candles. We simply just tease engaging that buy side, and then we come down, we reaccumulate orders inside of this order block since it delivered into this BISI right here, and we reaccumulate orders inside of this BISI here. You'd look for it to just move very aggressive. There's an objective at hand, there's an objective in play from this segment of price action that resides right here. We know that this -4, -4.5 is where price action is currently drawing towards. Now, as to how I'm looking to manage the rest of the position, next 4 contracts may look to scale it off at the OTE or the first presented fair value gap. Next 4-3 depends on the type of deliverance I'm looking overall for the day. So yeah, I had the standard deviation here as well. Was looking for this to serve as a point of inception. However, 10 a.m. opened right here. We didn't form a low for 10 a.m., so I was looking to frame that 10 a.m. power of 3, but still following the move along. This would be a wick standard deviation. Body standard deviation was projecting for this high as well. We fell short of it. That is when ES ended up forming those equal highs as well. But yeah, price action getting very aggressive as I was looking for it to do so. Yeah, it's pretty nice move. The only spot that you could say price action was rather would have been right here, but this is merely just the distortion of time. We know, like I mentioned earlier, price action is waiting for 10:45 to begin that expansion towards buy side. This point of inception ended up establishing itself late in price, so we have this 30-minute window right here ending at 10:15. Point of inception is established at 10:16. It's really not that late, to be quite honest, but it establishes itself late. And when we take a look at the hour one, now the way I'm speculating is this may be or may serve as the low of the week would be because, for one, standard deviation from the previous or 2 weeks ago's trading, we have the standard deviation -2, -2.5 utilized very nicely for reaccumulation of orders. I was going through this on the Telegram, and then we have a -4, -4.5, and which we've just engaged with right now. So would ultimately be saying, okay, this can serve as the low of the week for this week, because for one, we see that we have the 1800 opening being right here. We don't form a sufficient high. We do have a cracking correlation. This week may serve as a consolidation week. That is also a potential. I'm not going to do too much projections, to be quite honest. I'm just going to jump back onto the trade, but yeah. Would like to scale off some of the position in this new month opening gap. So when you're on the monthly chart, you'd see a gap. You can consider it your new month opening gap, or simply just a volume imbalance in price. Was I tweaking, or is there it might just be on, why is that? Why do I have a new month opening gap there? Maybe it was a new week opening gap. This is new month. That's very weird. It's apparent here anyway, so that's what I was paying attention to. Not sure why the limit wasn't engaged with, but I'm pretty confident price action will just displace into that. Or not. Genuinely, actually, potentially not. Cracking correlation being served right here. So cracking correlation just looking like this. Nothing really of significance, this cracking correlation. It's merely, I view it as though it's just going to invite for a retracement back into this range right here. Cracking correlation being served right here, I'm saying it's nothing of significance. It's going to invite for a retracement back down into the range. There's a leg we can look to standard deviate. So from that candle's high all the way down to its low, that is a leg. If I jump onto the 15-second, there's a clear, change in staying delivery, series of up close, series of down close. So this right here would be your order block if you're looking to go short. However, we know that the order flow intraday is currently bullish. Okay, so we are seeing that sell side deliverance from this order block. We're now in a premium of the range that I drawn out. So from this level of buy side all the way down to this level of sell side, cracking correlation establishing itself in this new month opening gap. Looking at this as though it's a retracement. We are retracing back into an M5 PD array, and when we're observing this M5 PD array, it displaced through this monthly BISI high. What I'm taking notice of is this 1055 candle on ES engaged with the 1050 candle. Nasdaq failed to follow suit, so that would be your second stage cracking correlation, in fact. So this is why it's nice to be paying attention to your correlated assets simultaneously to allow you to spot these type of things in comparison to how I was just sitting here watching this. So we had that first stage cracking correlation, and then you have the second stage cracking correlation presenting itself right here, inviting for that sell side delivery motion. So dropping down onto that 15-second, this would be where the second stage cracking correlation presented itself, and then you ultimately have that standard deviation that you could look to project. Now, considering that we are under the preconceived notion that this is buy side delivery that we should be continuing to see potentially, you could look to anchor the standard deviations to the bodies. The inversion of this imbalance right here would be very nice for it to be utilized as support to continue that buy side delivery motion. We've had that sell side deliverance from this point of inception right here, engaging with the body standard deviation -2, -2.5, which was ultimately the M15 SIBI low. And again, paying attention to the bodies, we don't have that closure above the SIBI that I'm looking to be utilized as an inversion. Yeah, so this is currently what I'm looking at right now in terms of, this would be how I'd be looking to manage the rest of the trade ultimately. Stop loss could ultimately be moved to this segment of price action right here. All right, but so I like this candle right here. If we can get a closure above these series of down close candles, above this imbalance that I previously wanted to see act as an inversion, I believe that would invite for the promotion to continue that buy side deliverance to at least this limit right here inside of the new week opening gap. And the fact that we stopped right at it, I could look to even extend the limit to the consequent encroachment of the new month opening gap, which is in alignment with the OTE of this range altogether. Now, that is all if we can have a closure of these series of up close candles. What I'm looking at right now is the fact that we have, and this is kind of annoying me in terms of all of these standard deviations, but we have the deliverance into this order block right here. Deeming this an order block because these down close candles delivered into this imbalance right here, and then we had a closure above it, and we're also inside of this -2, -2.5 standard deviation. So what I'm looking for would technically be a reaccumulation of orders, but with the sell program, it would be a smart money reversal. So again, under the preconceived notion that we're currently in a buy program, this is nothing but a retracement back down into the range. This -2, -2.5 should serve as a smart money reversal after reaccumulating orders within this range right here. So no clean order block formation. What is genuinely of importance though would be the inversion of this gap right here, basing it off of the fact that it has displaced through the monthly BSC high. If we have that closure above this gap, can definitely look to see it being utilized as support to continue our way up towards buy side. Okay, so was low-key on my phone, just seeing this very nice candle. 11:10, that would be the end of your macro. So your traditional macros being that 10:2 of an hour and 10 past of an hour. 11:10 being the end of that macro, inviting for that very aggressive buy side deliverance. No cracking correlation established would be an M5 cracking correlation if it was. For right now, aggressive as candle flips completely, emphasis on closure above this. So we can see how that imbalance, this one, is simply just being utilized numerous times as resistance. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times this imbalance has been utilized as resistance. That is also another tell of order flow in terms of we're spending too much time around the imbalance. You generally don't like to see price action spend a lot of time around an imbalance, especially when you're framing an idea for that imbalance to be utilized in the manner you want it to be utilized in. So if you are framing this imbalance to be utilized as resistance, you don't like to see this. You don't like to see price action deliver into it, deliver down away from it, deliver back up into it, deliver down away from it, deliver back up into it again. It's not really the best of tells in terms of price action being willing to utilize this imbalance as resistance. If we are to follow this price action along, an example of what I'm talking about would be this imbalance right here. This 1040 candle presenting a bullish imbalance. We end up seeing these series of down close candles delivering into it, and then we immediately leave it. We don't have none of this type of price action that presents itself that we're seeing right here. So now I like this candle. I believe that this should be the candle. Reason why being is because very small imbalance right here. We came, delivered into it, and now we are getting deliverance away from it. And what I could look to do is actually standard deviate. So these wicks right here, standard deviation. We have that -2, -2.5. Appears as though it's projecting for that 9:30 opening. So if I'm to just pull up that 9:30 opening real quick. And 8:30 as well. Oh, fuck it, 10. Yeah, so we have just the projection just above that 9:30 opening. And I'm low-key wondering what this black line here is as well. May have drawn it by accident, honestly have no clue. Okay, so we have that closure above the imbalance. If we return into it, we want to see it being utilized as support. But yeah, if anything, this is exactly what I speculated in terms of the engagement with this monthly BSC high, as well as the equilibrium is going to invite for these type of conditions in terms of it's not a case of price action not necessarily knowing where it wants to go. It's just simply not doing a whole lot of anything, especially when we observe higher fractals in terms of this M5. The past 25 minutes or so, we've simply just been in a range. And this range has been established, activated once we ended up engaging with this monthly BSC high. If we're reading order flow again, we can see that this bullish imbalance is not being utilized. It wasn't utilized in a manner that it should have been, in terms of we end up closing below it, we don't utilize it as resistance, and then we end up closing back above it again, reclaiming it. All within this time span as well. This is again just a way to tap into gauging order flow. If we know that there's certain things that price action should be doing, because if we are under the preconceived notion that the markets operate off of an algorithm, it means that it is a rules-based system. There are principles that have to be followed on a day-to-day basis that the algorithm is going to adhere to. And when these principles are not adhered to, it opens up for one to question as to why. And those answers are found once an investigation is done. But yeah, seeing that deliverance, I know ES is engaged with these highs. Nasdaq has failed to follow suit. Still believe that Nasdaq will follow suit. Reason why being is because, like I mentioned multiple times, we already know that Nasdaq is the weakest asset. If I am to just, we can see that Nasdaq is simply just the weakest asset. It engaged with the previous day low. It engaged with the, well, London also. I mean, ES engaged with that London low, but YM failed to follow suit. It engaged with the previous day low. ES failed to follow suit. So when it comes to that deliverance back up towards the buy side, Nasdaq is going to be a lot more lethargic and unwilling or slower in comparison to ES and YM. We can see that ES is already approaching its 845 high. Nasdaq lagging behind. It appears as though it's nowhere near engaging with that 845 high. So yeah, there would be the OTE as well as the consequent encroachment of this gap right here. So very aggressive deliverance into it. And yeah, basically what I was stating, the inversion of this gap was required in order for price action to ultimately go and deliver into that level. So now no longer feel the need to manage this trade. It can quite literally do as it pleases. If I'm being completely honest, I do speculate that ES potentially takes this high and then it invites for a point of inception to retrace back into the range, maybe act a bit lethargic. If we're being considerate of time, which is something that we should always be doing, we're rolling into our lunch session soon. So we have the lunch hour starting at 12. Lunch is subjective. Sometimes it can start at half 12, half 11 and end at 13:30, and then sometimes it can start at 12 and end at 1, being that 1300. But it all depends on the framework and the structure price action is presenting at that current point in time. Yeah, honestly, basically it for the trade. I don't know if it's really a requirement to do an analysis, as we've basically just followed the trade the entire way through from that point of execution. In terms of the standard deviations projecting for sell side to locate that point of inception, low-key went through as well. We have this hour 4 standard deviation. We have daily standard deviations as well. Not sure, I don't know if there's hour 1. Yeah, there's no hour 1 standard deviations. But yeah, that is currently what we are looking at. And yeah, price action getting rather aggressive now, delivering towards this pool of buy side that resides right here. ES has already taken it, inclined to scale off one contract. The reason why being is because we're engaging with that 930 opening, and there's a -2, -2.5 standard deviation that resides here. The standard deviation being found from this candle's low all the way to this candle's high, once we had the closure above it right there. Now, to be honest, I would like to just hold the trade for that 1800 opening, resides right here. So current position simply elapsed just only an hour. Oh wait, no, just a little bit over an hour the entire position elapsed for. So with this Kraken correlation that resides here, you'd be looking to see Nasdaq not offer any bearish signatures. You'd be looking for it to continue moving aggressive in a manner that promotes catching up to ES and engaging with this pool of buy side right here. Now, one thing for certain is that this is a very clear drawn liquidity. These devil's marks right here, all of this buy side right here, a general party that engages with the market is going to be looking at it as resistance, especially with the fact that it's invited for this sell side delivery motion. If anything, a general party in the market would be looking to chase this sell side delivery from that 930 opening. 930 opens, invites very heavy sell side deliverance. They come to the conclusion that this was utilized as resistance to invite for. I've literally just repeated myself. Low-key tired. But yeah, to be quite honest, if we are to go on a little tangent. Very interesting framework that we have here setting up for the FOMC session tomorrow. Potential change in stay in delivery, M15, series of down close candles, a series of up close candles. We can take the acknowledgement that ES is more than likely going to offer that if this candle closes in a manner that supports it, but standard deviations could ultimately be projected from here. So I'd ultimately look to have a body standard deviation. This standard deviation, not valid. This was during the pre-New York AM session, but body standard deviation projecting for the previous week's equilibrium. Very likely that this may occur, especially with the fact that an injection of volatility would most definitely be needed in order to get through all of this price action. So with FOMC being tomorrow, that would be that injection of volatility for the day that price action would need. But staying here, this actually does appear that it might hit soon, but honestly, genuinely tired. And the reasoning why as to I believe it may hit is because we're not seeing any bearish signatures off of the Kraken correlation. So like I stated earlier, you'd want to see NASDAQ continue to follow suit with ES continuing that buy side delivery motion in an aggressive manner. A spool is currently what we're seeing here in terms of only seeing one side of delivery being buy side in order to follow suit with exactly what ES has done, being engaging with this high. NASDAQ is drawing towards this midnight opening for today's trading. If we take a look at it, midnight opening being a devil's mark, we had the London session deliver into that midnight opening and then invite for that sell side delivery motion. But yeah, very, very nice push being presented. To be quite honest, shave off 10 points, drag this just right down. I don't believe that price action is going to reverse. I believe that we will take out these highs, ultimately looking to deliver into that new week opening gap. Now, again, I'm not sure if this is it's an old new week opening gap. All right, but low-key, just been a solid like 5 minutes, just been doom scrolling during this retracement, really just wanting this to just slam right through so, the video can just wrap itself up. But low-key just remembered the indicators. I did say that I was going to preview them once they're finished. Now, the bottom indicator, very nice indicator to be quite honest. Rather pleased with it at this current point in time. It's not really too bad. The only thing that I'm looking to add would be one more window, but it's basically just sessions, days, and weeks. It's nothing too fancy to be quite honest. It's simply just for, observing where the sessions are in terms of this is London, can simply just project it up and see where that London high came in at. And then the days, you have them starting at that 1800, and then you have that midnight opening at being that red line, and then you have the weeks, and then I'm ultimately looking to add the months. And then the other thing that we have would be the 30-minute windows across the sessions and across the days. So we can see how these 30-minute windows are being utilized as points of inception for price action to, reverse, or a point of inception for a continuation model. So this would be your point of inception for reversal, and then this is your inception continuation model right here. Both of these landing within the 30-minute window. Of course, it can land a little bit late at times, as this did right here. But generally, we do see these points of inceptions establishing themselves within these 30-minute windows. And then the other indicator would be this one. Now, this one is really just to make life easier, to be quite honest. No longer have to manually add stuff onto the chart. So we have all of the key time openings here. So you have the monthly openings, you have the previous month high, previous month low, the equilibrium, and there is also a look back as well in terms of if we wanted to view the months prior in terms of their respective highs and lows, we can do so, as well as the month opening. And that is kind of the premise for a lot of these things as well, because just because the previous day low was engaged with, or just let's say today is Tuesday, the time of this recording, just because the Friday low has been engaged with doesn't mean that it holds no substance within price action during Tuesday. It can still hold a level of weight during Tuesday's price action when price action is around it. But yeah, we basically just have all of these levels. We have the key time openings, previous settlement, midnight opening, and then we have the, sessions, session high, low, X, Y, and Z. We have the key time openings for these sessions. First presented fair value gaps is in here as well for the AM session, New York AM, and the New York PM. And then just a little, 2-2 settings inside of this as well. But if I'm being completely honest, this is low-key giving me a headache. I've been working on it for about 2-3 days, but there are a little bit of stuff that need to be fixed with it in terms of, if we jump onto the daily chart, this is saying that this is the month opening for December. This is not the month opening for December. This says the month opening for June. It's July because it says June because it opens up at 1800 during June on the 31st. It's, just gotta get it all worked up and everything. But yeah, okay, so this looks as though it may just about finally smack that take profit. See for cracking correlation. Yeah, so to be quite honest, cracking correlation is about to establish itself in price. It may also be a 5-minute. It is a 5-minute. So would look to aggressively manage this trade now. In terms of my stop loss should be at this low right here. I like that stop loss placement because it engaged with that 930 low. The 930 opening, as well as it's a low that formed inside of an M5 imbalance, which you would deem it an intermediate term low. You don't want to see that being engaged with if order flow is to remain bullish. So it's all dependent on how these next few candles close, as well as if ES is willing to catch up with what NASDAQ is currently doing. But yeah, in relation to the indicator, simply just makes life easier. You can have the session highs and lows stay on the chart. This is just another way of gauging order flow. We can see how this London low was being utilized. Just because London low was engaged with during this segment of price action here doesn't mean we completely ignore it. If we, keep it there and we observe it, we can see once it's displaced below, we end up utilizing it twice as a form of resistance. And then we end up utilizing it here as a form of support. Now, the thing is like when you're engaging with price action, when you're trying to gauge order flow, when you're trying to navigate these markets, it's not a case of you have to be paying attention to so many things. It's really a case of you have to be paying attention to the right things. And how you know you're paying attention to the right things is if they are influenced by time. That is quite literally it. If these things are influenced by time, or if price has done something that is related to time. So we might displace through time-based liquidity. That is the relation to time. That is where time is brought into relevance. Price displacing through time-based liquidity. Or if price is displaying certain signatures during a certain time window, being these 30-minute time windows or your 20-minute macros. But as long as you're paying attention to the right things, being, the PD array matrix, which is, I'm not sure what part it is, might be part 2, 3 in the Inception model. When you're paying attention to these PD array matrix, these PD arrays are going to present themselves strategically in price. They're going to be in alignment with levels that are already established in price. For example, this imbalance right here, establishing itself at this monthly BSC high. This is what makes this imbalance to me serve as importance, as well as the fact that we ended up seeing it being utilized as resistance. And speculating a manual close here, very dependent on what this current candle does. But yeah, we ended up seeing this imbalance being utilized as resistance first to deliver into this order block right here. It's all just, as long as you are paying attention to the right things in price, then it's ultimately going to, serve as beneficial to one. But yeah, manually closing that trade here because I believe this may serve as a point of inception to retrace back into the range. Ultimately, could be wrong. But yeah, we have that M5 cracking correlation. We have this external cracking correlation. There's internal cracking correlations as well. I'd be looking at this like this. So that is what could end up occurring. But of course, very clear drawn liquidities being these highs right here, as well as that midnight opening, but being conscious of time. It's not to say that these, since I closed the trade, that these draws in liquidity won't be engaged with. They just may not be engaged with within the time that I'm looking for it to be engaged with, being honestly, 10 minutes ago. But yeah. So yeah, that would be it in relation to this video. I'm gonna try and do more of these in terms of commentary. There's a lot of back and forth switching between the tabs, which low-key isn't really ideal, but kind of gives one my thought process as I am going through price. But if I am using a monitor, it's a lot more cleaner in terms of we can just stay on one chart. But yeah, that would be it for the video. It appears price action is going to take this high. If I'm being honest, I low-key just got impatient. My stop loss was at a point of invalidation, so that would be where I no longer want to be in the trade. But yeah, that would be it in relation to this live execution video.